Once upon a time, in a not-so-distant land, there lived a widowed merchant with her son, daughter, and sister. One day the merchant left to do business at the thrice-ninth kingdom, taking her daughter with her and leaving her son in the care of her sister, whom she loved dearly. The mother commanded the aunt to take care of her son, and the aunt readily agreed. The merchant's son spent his days learning, cleaning, cooking, and in short, doing everything his mother asked, including good hygiene. However, the merchant's son had such an incredible beauty that the aunt could not help but be captivated by it. In her lust, she grabbed the young boy and declared,
"I can't help myself! Be my lover or die!"
Hearing this, the merchant's son pulled himself free from her clutches and fled the room. The aunt chased the young man into the bathhouse, where he had the presence of mind to grab a bucket filled with boiling water and throw it at the aunt, thereby salvaging his virtue. As she lay on the floor, screaming in pain, the boy ran from the room. For months, the aunt could not leave her bed, too in pain from the boiling water. In her anger, she wrote to her sister, accusing her son of the grossest misdeeds and worst sort of conduct imaginable. In her words, she strove to do her best to poison the merchant's mind against her son. The aunt's letter traveled far until it reached the hands of the merchant. Outraged, after reading the horrendous things her beloved son had done, she called her daughter to her.
"Your brother has brought shame upon our family. Take this knife and kill him. Bring his heart to me."
The sister tried to protest, but in the end she obeyed her mother's commands and returned home. As she traveled home, the sister decided to inquire of the villagers as to what her brother had actually been doing.
How do I begin to explain the merchant's son?
The merchant's son is flawless.
He always carries 2 icons in a rosary.
I hear his hair is insured for 10,000 rubles.
I heard that he cooks and cleans all day in the house.
His favorite fairy tale is Snow White.
One time he saw the Tsar, and he told him he was pretty.
One time he looked me in the eyes. It was awesome.
After realizing from the villagers that her brother had done no wrong, the sister went to speak to him in secret. She told him,
"Our aunt has been spreading terrible lies about you to our mother, and she has sent me to kill you, bringing your heart to her on a knife."
The boy was stunned and startled and asked his sister how he might escape this fate. She told him,
"Run. Run far away to wherever your eyes lead you. Do not come back."
The merchant's son ran away. And the sister stabbed a dog and carried its heart back in her brother's place. The sister traveled back to the thrice-ninth kingdom to present her mother with the dog's heart. Upon receiving the heart, the mother declared,
"Served him right. A dog like him deserves a dog's death."
The merchant's son wandered and wandered for a short time or a long time through a beautiful forest until he came to a marvelous palace with beautifully carved stone and glorious turrets stretching far towards the sky. The merchant's son raised his hand and knocked loudly on the door, but he heard no response. Whereupon he tried the door, and finding it unlocked, proceeded to enter the palace. He saw, once inside, that though it was clear that this grand home was inhabited, it needed the care of someone proficient in the domestic arts. And so he began to sweep and clean, and when he had finished, he chose to take his ease outside in the courtyard. 2 mighty bogatirs rode up on their noble steeds. The 2 great bogatirs dismounted and declared,
"Hello, beauty. We need someone to keep house when we are gone. You can do that, right? Hurrah! You are now our brother, and we vow to keep you safe. If anyone dare encroach upon your honor, be it us or others, we will kill ourselves."
The 2 bogatirs raised their weapons in a salute before remounting their horses and riding away. After the merchant returned home from her travels, she became lonely and took a beautiful man to wed. However, he was cruel and jealous and vain above all else. One day, as the evil stepfather was grooming himself, he picked up his enchanted mirror and asked, "Mirror, mirror, in my hand, who's the fairest in the land?" The magic mirror responded,
"You are lovely, it is true, but your stepson is far lovelier than you."
In anger, the stepfather placed down the mirror and summoned an old man to do his bidding. When the old man came to the stepfather's bedroom, the stepfather commanded him to bring an enchanted ring to the boy. He told him of the magical properties the ring possessed, that when put on, it would enchant the boy into death as long as he wore the ring. The next day, as the bogatirs planned to leave once again, they instructed their brother to let no one, be they male or female, old or young, man or beast, enter the palace. The merchant's son nodded in agreement, yet as soon as the bogatirs were out of sight, an old man stumbled from behind a tree and walked up to where the merchant's son was standing. The old man greeted the boy, telling him stories of home, of his sister and mother. The youth was overjoyed to hear news of his home and immediately ushered the old man into the castle. The merchant's son and the old man talked for a long time or a short time, and at the end of their time together, the old man pulled out a ring and said it came from the boy's sister, a gift. The boy was overjoyed and took the ring, staring at it. At that, the old man rose from the table to take his leave. The boy continued to stare at the ring until finally he put it on. The bogatirs returned from their travel and were surprised to not see the merchant's son greeting them. In a panic, they rushed in to find the boy lying dead. Filled with deep sadness, they began to prepare him for burial. However, they noticed a strange, beautiful ring on his finger, so they removed it. Instantly, the young boy awoke and the bogatirs embraced him, chiding him, saying,
"You let someone in, didn't you?"
Ashamed, the merchant's son nodded and told them of the old man who came with stories from home. The bogatirs sternly warned him,
"Next time you must not let anyone enter, especially not the old man."
Days passed, and the evil stepfather returned to his mirror and asked it the same question. The mirror knew that the merchant's son had not perished and declared him still as fairest. Once again, the stepfather summoned the old man, this time giving him an enchanted ribbon. Once more, the bogatirs had left when the old man made his way to the palace. Again, the old man greeted the boy, telling him stories of home, of his sister and mother. The youth was so overjoyed to hear news of his home that he could not help but lose his suspicions of the man and ushered him into the castle again. Once again, the old man and the merchant's son talked about home. At the end of their visit, the old man presented him with a ribbon, saying it was a gift. The boy at first protested, but finally accepted the beautiful ribbon. At that, the old man rose from the table and left. The boy continued to stare at the ribbon until he finally tied it around his neck. Once again, he fell over as if dead. Again, the bogatirs returned from their travel and were saddened to see their brother dead once more. They removed the ribbon, and once again the merchant's son awoke. Again, the boy confessed to having admitted the old man into the palace. The bogatirs warned him, "Let no one enter this home, especially not the old man." Days passed, and the evil stepfather returned to his mirror and asked it the same question yet again. The mirror knew that the merchant's son still had not perished and still declared him as fairest. Once again, the stepfather summoned the old man, this time giving him an enchanted banana. Yet again, it was a day when the bogatirs were gone that the old man appeared at the palace gates. Once again, the old man cajoled the boy and lulled his fears, thus gaining entrance to the palace. Again, the old man and the boy talked of home, and the old man presented him with a banana, saying, "You look hungry, have a bite." The merchant's son felt his stomach sound and took a bite. He fell over as if dead. Smiling, the old man left. The bogatirs returned from travel, and seeing their brother dead once more, they searched and searched for something to remove from his body. Not his hat, not his glasses. In despair, they laid the boy down for everlasting sleep. So sorely did their brother's death grieve these mighty bogatirs that they could not imagine spending one further moment of time on this earth without him. And as one they spoke,
"What do we have to live for? Let's do ourselves in."
And having thus uttered these words, the bogatirs joined hands and fell from the balcony to greet their brother in death's embrace. A prince, mighty of arm and noble of spirit from a not-so-distant kingdom, was one day hunting with his 2 huntswomen, when, by strangest chance, he became separated from them as he chased after his quarry. He had lost himself entirely when he stumbled upon a beautiful castle. Intrigued, the prince knocked on the door, and with no response, he entered. Walking in, he noticed how abandoned the castle looked, except for one room. There he saw the most beautiful man he had ever laid eyes on. Captivated, he could not help staring and staring at him until the light of day faded. When night arrived, the prince was finally able to break his stare and return to find his huntswomen. Day followed day, and the prince continued to steal away from his huntswomen and return to the palace so that he might gaze in longing at the beautiful boy that therein lay. At last, after 7 days, the huntswomen contrived to follow their prince. They snuck quietly behind him until they came across the castle. After watching the prince enter, the two huntswomen followed closely behind. The huntswomen, too, were captivated by the boy's astonishing beauty, his porcelain face and painted features. The three spent the day staring, and at day's end, the prince commanded the huntswomen to carry the boy back to his castle and place him within his bedchamber. The huntswomen agreed and swore to tell no one. Day in and day out, the prince spent his time staring at his beautiful love, refusing to leave his side. The prince's parents started to become concerned and spied upon their son to see what was going on. Appalled and shocked at what they found, the king demanded that the prince give his love a proper burial. The prince was devastated, but he had to obey his father. Right before burial, the prince fell upon his love's chest in despair, freeing the banana that had been lodged in the boy's throat, and he awoke. In his great excitement, the prince declared his undying love and devotion for the boy and requested that they be married at once. Because nothing can stand in the way of true love, and since czars waste no time, they were wedded immediately. After they had been wedded a time, the merchant's son spoke of returning to his home to see how his mother and sister were faring. His love, the prince, agreed readily to this, and it was decided that the merchant's son would return home swiftly by ship, while the prince would go by land and arrive a few days after his love. The ship was captained by a general of great renown and great lust. The merchant's son had such an incredible beauty that the general could not help but be captivated by it. In her lust, she grabbed the young boy and declared,
"You are aboard my boat and in my power. Be my lover, or I will throw you overboard to meet your doom. You have until midnight."
Hearing this, the merchant's son pulled himself free from her clutches and fled from the room, sobbing. Hearing his cries, a sailor, possessed of a gentle heart and noble spirit, approached the merchant's son and said,
"Switch clothing with me. At night, when the general comes, we will be safe in my bed. I will be fine in the water. I know how to swim."
That night, the general came with 2 men to throw the merchant's son overboard. However, little did they know that the sailor slept in his place. When the sailor landed in the sea, she quickly swam to safety. The boat reached land when the merchant's son snuck aboard and disguised himself as a cook in his mother's kitchen. The prince arrived at the merchant's home after his long journey. When he dismounted from his glorious steed, the prince noticed his husband's mother standing before him. He declared, "I have married your son. Accept me as your own." However, the merchant replied in great distress,
"I accept you and are welcome in my home, but alas, my son is dead."
The prince could not believe what he had heard, but cried out in pain and denial to the sky above, yet there was nothing he could do. He retired to the merchant's house and, in great grief, resolved to stay there 3 days before beginning his journey home. The final night of the prince's stay arrived, and the merchant held a great feast to honor the departure of her noble guest. In attendance were the wicked ones who had threatened the love of the 2 princes, the aunt, the stepfather, the old man, and the general, as well as the sister and mother. They talked and ate and drank mead until they became bored and searched for entertainment. The general, full of drink and whimsy, suggested that someone tell a story. The aunt tried, but she was too far into her cups to make sense, while the old man, for all his age, did not know a single good tale. So the sister mentioned that their new cook might know many grand stories. The cook, after much insistence, agreed to tell a story. However, he said, "If anyone interrupts, I shall hit them on the head with this spoon." And he began to tell his story of every terrible thing that had happened to him. His aunt was the first to realize that this was no work of fiction, but a true tale, and stood to protest, saying,
"He lies!"
The disguised cook promptly hit the aunt on the head with a spoon and she fell over. The cook continued to tell his story, yet was interrupted again when he began to tell of his wicked stepfather and the old man. Once again, they tried to stop the story, but they too were hit on the head. At her part, the general too interrupted the cook and was hit on the head with a spoon. The cook came to the present of disguising himself in his own mother's home and ripped off his disguise. In celebration, the mother, sister, and prince rose to greet their loved one. The mother turned to the evildoers and said,
"For their foul deeds they must be punished. Death by nerf."
The evildoers were lined up, and the executioner raised a mighty gun and shot them dead, one by one. In happiness that all wrongdoings had been resolved, the 2 princes, the mother and the sister, lived happily ever after. And I was there to see this happen, and drank mead, and it ran into my plate, but I did not taste a single drop.